Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Okay, good. That works.
Yay!
I gotta get the last piece to work, and if you guys don't know what the last piece is, trust me. Alright, so that goes down. This comes up. This comes up. Even though it's gonna tell me I'm not connected to the internet, and that's intentional because we want to reduce the strain on this laptop as much as possible because I'm about to put it through its paces. Okay, that comes to here. We need to capture a, where is it, display. That one. And you don't want it. Of course you don't want it. Why don't we want to do this? Okay, fine, we'll do this silly one. Ha! I win. At the bottom. Okay. That doesn't make any sense. What do you... Why does none of this want... Why does technology hate me? What did I do?
The room is cursed.
What?
The writing room is cursed, that's how.
God, why? What did I do? Dear technology, please.
God, this is.
Menu settings, output, use that, cool. Should receive over here. And voila! Aha! All right, that's working there.
You can do
Just
it.
that here. And now I need to turn the lighting on. Okay. And scaling all the way up. Okay. I need you to be... I hate Windows 11.
This is shared testament.
Because I used to be able to do this the way I want to do it, and it keeps resizing the window to what it thinks I want.
It's a heron?
It's a burb.
Oh yeah, well, it was a heron.
I am technically a roadrunner.
Oh, okay.
Hold on to view. Alright, I want, you don't understand. I don't want any of this. I want to just see the preview. I'm just going to do all of that. That should, in theory, theory being the optimal word, start working. So, you know, I used to know how to do this, how to do something like this with Windows 10, and then they made me upgrade to 11.
Yeah.
That should be neutral. Okay. Hi, everybody. This is the first time I've tried doing this way. I'm a crazy idiot. We're going to try this. If it doesn't work, I'm going to throw it away and we'll figure it out later. Hi, I am Fiaura. I blow things up, including my own computer. Please don't explode.
We have water, don't worry.
You say that like water would help the situation.
It would stop fire.
Yes, but the hard drive. You're all here to learn how to write, not how to have my technical problems proceed to explode in my face religiously, because that's what happens. So we're going to try to do this. I could not get everything to work in the vendor hall like I wanted it to, because they had us setting up the vendor hall at midnight when I was supposed to be setting this up. Yay. you know, it's a convention. Nothing's ever on time, nothing ever works right, and we hide the fire very well. So let's get on to the panel, shall we? Ha! Hey, I got it to work! Yes! I wish I could get rid of the interface, but hey, it's better than nothing. Hi, I am Fiaura. I have been doing human sexuality and communication for 12 years now. I'm old.
Aren't we all?
I got my first degree in 2013. I got my last one in 2017.
I went to
was a
BodyCon in
professor
2013.
until the end of 2018, and then I said, no, I don't want to be in academia anymore. That's not working out. So, moved on, and this is what I do now. I write books, I write fan fiction, and like 5 or 6 days a week, I'm a bird. Hi. On the left-hand side, you'll see the pony. I think the left. You're right,
Yeah.
my left. Relative. That is Wandering Sunrise. I write her for Fallout Equestria Dead Tree, a legally published parody. All 3 of my books are in the Library of Congress, and I have the copyright for the 4th book, which comes out in December, which is the last one. This only took almost 10 years to write. In addition to this, I'm here to teach you all how to, generally write your stories, because I have to sit here and listen to my editor, who traveled with me, who's currently at my vendor table, and she proceeded to run by every single idea she's ever had about what she wants to write, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, have you actually written any of this? And the answer was no. Well, let's get started. So first thing, if you're going to create anything in terms of writing or animation or creative content at all, you start with an outline of what you want to do. Because if you don't, it turns into a rambling rant like half of the things I say. And the reason you do this is because you, the author, should know where you're going. You don't know the middle part. You just know the beginning and the end, and your job is to fill in the middle. That's the part of discovery for you. But you already know what your ending is from the get-go. This is important for all writers, because if you don't know what your ending is from the get-go, you're going to have a bad time, because you're going to end up with, well, what if I took Transformers and My Little Pony and put them together? Oh, wait, they only made 4 comics because they had no plot. They just wanted to see what would happen. Do you see the problem? And I know all of you want to write some big, thick epic that makes Tolkien wake up and go, that looks nice, and then go back to his grave where he belongs. So let's go over some of those pitfalls. Concept ideas that will fail you repeatedly. Here's an interesting crossover. I just gave one. If you don't have a plot, if you don't have characters, if you don't have character development, if you don't have a story, kaboom, goes bye-bye. And then you're like on chapter 6 and like, what do I do now? And the answer is, you don't know. Commission writing sucks, by the way. I did it in undergrad. I had to remove 99% of it from the internet because it's not safe for Everfree. But I did get paid a lot of money to write those things for those people. It is soul-crushing. It sucks. Don't do it if you can help it. You'll learn a lot of things about how things work if you do. This is just me, but human in Equestria is weird. You can have it. You can do your thing. That's fine. You just have to account for the fact that that is a human being. And horses, cartoon horses, tend to take a lot more punishment than human beings. See Applejack and Rainbow Dash, with Rainbow Dash getting hurled at the horizon and surviving with no real injury. See Twilight hitting changelings, and they fly off the screen at exactly 287 miles an hour, which means they were hit across the entire body with the equivalent force of an adult crocodile bite. And they're supposed to survive. Or, to give a different equivalent for American friends, it's like a Mack truck hits somebody across a football field. Take these things into account when you're scaling your power for your setting. Also, the last thing that never works, worrying about your appeal of an audience. You have an audience of 1. I have to learn how to do this again. 1. There we go. You have an audience of 1. Not 2, not 3, not 4. Aha, I have finger control.
But you only have 4 fingers.
I know, so I have to do it like this. You have an audience of 1. Just 1. You. That's it. You, the writer. You are the audience. Anyone else who reads this are people who are interested in what you've done. If you don't write for yourself, it turns into a mess. See Marvel. When you are writing a story that will work, first, be prepared to fail. I have 6 failures on my film fiction. I have 3 successes. The last success I'm trying to finish. And in the meantime, I've started putting something that I am writing for just me to enjoy, to break my writer's block, over on Fur Affinity with my other original work. What I am putting on Fur Affinity is not safe, and I'm not going to discuss it here. However, the original work is. Well, PG-13 is kind of safe. If you like eldritch horror and existential dread. Get your story arcs outlined and know what you're doing with them. Each individual character should have an arc. Especially if they're going to be a main character that's going to be in the party the entire way through, they should arc. Not, explode. And you forget about plot points, you forget about subplots, and then someone comes up to you in the comments and goes, hey, what about this thing 5 chapters ago that you said was a thing and that they could have used? And you're going to be like, nope. Look, I play tabletop games. I take extensive notes. My GM is shocked when I put my notes in the Discord page, and he's like, how many pages? Did you copy their entire conversations verbatim? Yes. Because that's the only way I'm going to remember all of it. Decide an age rating when you start. Don't decide to put not safe for children things in later. Either you're going to have them or you're not. You cannot just say later, oh, I can put in not safe for work now. No, bad. You either decide to do it from the start or not at all. And the reason for that is because if you try to put it in later, then the people who are reading it, even though you're writing it for yourself, are going to get mad at you. Because some of them are going to be like, I did not want adult-themed things in my story about crazy ponies with shotguns in a wasteland full of gore. Don't believe me? Trust me. And that's kind of how that worked out. And I, therefore, just threw it out and said, okay, Patreon, you've spoken. This chapter is getting rewritten with the fade to black instead, and I'm going to put a box of family friendliness over it. Okay? You as a writer also are going to have to cross some lines. Morally, ethically, philosophically, you are going to have those dilemmas of what am I willing to do and what am I unwilling, what is a hard no? Me, I have seen people get degloved or blown to pieces or shot in the head, or in some cases I was the one holding the gun. I know what that looks like. I know how that, kind of an idea of how that feels like as an onlooker. I also know what it's like to be stabbed. With that information in mind, am I willing to describe those feelings to my reader? Absolutely. Am I willing to describe those feelings to a reader and the person who is being shot at is under the age of 14? Absolutely not. That will be there is a solid wall and no one actually saw that happen. That's just how you have to look at things. You're going to have some other moral and ethical dilemmas that come up. You're going to have like a character who's coming of age. Is it okay for them to date? A character who has an abusive parent. Is it okay for them to fight back? A character who has to stand up to a bully. What is the level of stand-up we're talking about? Are we talking about Daffy Duck laying an egg on his head from I'm saying this because I watched the day the Earth blew up yesterday. Are you gonna have Daffy Duck laying an egg and it drop on the bully's head from a rooftop? Or are you gonna have like them get into a fist fight? Or are you gonna have them like shame the bully with the rest of the school behind it and the bully suddenly isn't welcome anywhere? How are you gonna handle it? These are the ethical and moral questions you have to put down. When you create a name, create a location, create anything that has a proper noun, you have a cheat sheet. You write it down in your cheat sheet. My outline is like all of the chapters and everything is supposed to be in them, and then under that is the cheat sheet. And it's every single time I have put a name to something, every single time I've given someone a specific date for an anniversary, a birthday, a special holiday, every single time someone has shown a unique power or ability or piece of technology that they're the only ones who possess, all of it is written there for me to easily reference. I also write down the last time it was used. That way I'm like, when did I use that? And I go back to that chapter and I can reread it easily.
So you put down like what it was and when it was last used, but like do you do anything else than that? Like if you were just go say, hey, they went to this town called like I don't know, Gatesboro or something, and then something actually happened there.
They went to Gatesboro. This is the chapter they went there. This is the primary plot point of that chapter.
Okay.
That's kind of how I do it. This works really well, especially if you're writing particularly long stories. Fallen Equestrian Dead Tree is 642,000 words so far, and I need an adult.
I am an adult.
I need a better adult.
I need an adultier adult.
Editors, proofreaders, assemble! My editor is at my vendor table right now. She's lovely. I have had several editors over the years. I have had Enigma Otaku, I've had Hitomi Salazar, I've had Prop Master, I've had Mr. Numbers, and now I have Chameleon. I will not publish any of my writing without an editor. Because no matter how many times I read it, it will make sense in my head and not in yours. That simple. You will always miss something. There is no other way around it. At one point, I had 2 editors, a continuity guide, and a proofreader. Those 2 editors now have jobs that they can't edit for me anymore. One is a newspaper in New Zealand with a non-competition clause. The other is a high school teacher who is not allowed to be seen with a transgender individual. Rip me. We still talk and hang out and stuff. He just can't publicly have his name on anything of mine anymore. And the continuity person is dead.
Ooh.
I've been writing Dead Tree for so long at this point, 4 people who were involved in its creation have died. That's how my life is right now. And make sure you pay these people. You're going to have to pay them. You are paying someone to do a job. They are not doing it out of the kindness of their heart. They may be doing it out of the kindness of their heart because they like you, but at the end of the day, there is a paycheck involved. Because that is the only way you're going to get any of it done in a timely manner. If I was not paying Chameleon, she might get a chapter done a month. I need her doing 2 chapters a week for 2 different stories. When I say 2 proofreaders, for me, that's just, I put it up on Patreon and tell everybody on Patreon, hey, if you find something wrong, you get a free $3 subscription to Patreon for the next month, because I'll just issue a free month. And lastly, make sure they understand that you both have a working relationship, aka I play video games with my editors. It's a requirement in their contract that we have to play a video game once a week. That's so we can still relate to each other, because I know for a fact my editor is going to make me cry and make me upset and make me angry. That's just, you have to tell your editor they are allowed to punish you. You don't have to like it, but they have to be allowed to do it. When you're fleshing out your outline, every chapter should have a minimum of 3 points. Main plot, which character is focused on, and is this a comedy or a tragedy chapter? You can have more complex emotions than comedy or tragedy, but the basis is this going to be tragedy, drama, plot development, or is this going to be comedy, stress relief, world building? World building is often done very well if you can make people laugh. because then they'll tell the joke about your world, and suddenly other people are engaged with your world who haven't even read your book. If there is a subplot in a chapter, you include this in your outline points. And you don't include it like a straight line where it's bullet, bullet, bullet. It's bullet 1. And then subplot is bullet, bullet A. That way you, the writer, know this is a subplot I'm supposed to include here for some reason or another. Whether that be, okay, so the plot of the chapter is, I have 2 characters who are currently in trench warfare in the enemy trench trying to get into the place that is besieged, and those are the only 2 characters who can interact with each other. Awesome. Now what is the subplot? Why does Chifundo only talk in rhymes? That's the entire chapter. That's the subplot, the start, the finish, the whole 9 yards. Is this going to be comedy or tragedy? It's going to be tragedy and drama because they are alone, isolated, and constantly under threat of attack. And then another subplot for this is Chifundo's going to start showing signs of PTSD. And the other character has to help him with it. Okay, there's my whole chapter. By the way, that is also a convoluted way of doing what's called a bank vault test, which is where you take 2 characters, lock them in a room by themselves with no one else to interact with, and now they have to have something functional. Family Guy did a literal bank vault test. They locked Stewie and Brian in a bank vault for an entire episode. You want to do that sometimes when you're not sure if a character's working. Lock them in a bank vault. The bank vault doesn't have to be literal. Something important, because everybody will tell you, publishers will tell you, kill your baby, and I'll look at the publisher and I'll flip them off. I'm not killing my baby. I wrote the thing the way I wrote it. You can publish it the way I wrote it, or I can publish it myself, your choice. I understand if you publish it, I'll make more money. But I also understand I am not willing to compromise what I wrote. However, on the side note, I have to write out all the characters I am willing to not have finish the story. Whether those characters are not going to be in the story anymore because it's going to progress away from where they are in the world, whether those characters are going to die, or whether those characters are going to simply say, I don't want to be around anymore. You have to decide which characters are going to be able to be written out and how you're going to do it. And you have to be comfortable with it. It is okay when writing your own story to cry. It is okay when writing your own story to get mad at yourself, throw your manuscript across the room, bounce it off the wall, pick it up 10 minutes later and start over. It is also okay to throw a chapter away. There we go, now we're centered. These things are okay. You just kind of have to live with them. This is why I said write your ending first. So we all know who these creatures are at the top and the bottom. Now, which ones do we actually know that kind of make sense, and which ones are like shoehorned in?
The ones up top.
See, you write your ending first. This is why you write your ending first. I'm looking at you, Hasbro, and I'm calling you out for it. This is how stories end up being 80-plus chapters with unfinished subplots, plots that fly off the rails, things that make no sense, total character breaks, or total character assassinations. You didn't write your ending first. I have Dead Tree's ending. It is on 3 thumb drives, one of which is in a bank. Just in case the 2 that I have with me are destroyed. It is not in Google Docs. It is not in the cloud because I don't want somebody to hack my account and be like, ooh, I have the ending. No, not happening. The entire ending chapter is done. I have to get there. Examples of stories that did not write their ending first, and it's obvious. MLB Season 7, correct. Also, Project Horizons, yeah, I'm looking at you. Did not write their ending first, and it's very obvious. Characters have to have flaws, and they don't have to be obvious. Everyone has flaws. I ramble. I have PTSD. I have depression. I have an imposter syndrome that can make Napoleon look normal. Those are obvious flaws about me. Further obvious flaws, I will do self-deprecating humor to the point it actually hurts myself. And when I am upset, I will spiral. These are my flaws. I acknowledge them. When I'm making a character, I have to look at the flaws I want. More importantly, if you're going to put people into situations you yourself have never been in, you should talk to people who have. This is very important. I'm now going to go over some other adult things with everybody. If you're going to write a scene about rape, go talk to a rape survivor who's willing to talk to you. Go talk to a police officer. As much as I don't like police officers, this is one instance where you might want to interview one. If you're going to talk about war, if you're going to talk about private military contractors, because somebody came to me literally wanting to put my character in a PMC. And I was like, if you want to write this, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, because I'm going to say that this character would not join a private military contractor. They just would not. But if you want to write this, go right ahead. Go talk to somebody who's been in a PMC before you do it if you can. Or go watch some interviews of people who have, so you have an idea of how they work, what goes on. Anyone else in here who's a veteran will understand when I say water eggs. And I saw one head light up and I know who you are. Anyone else will understand when I say the omelet, which is the vegetarian omelet MRE. Don't eat that. Do not. And remember, you have to be able to explain a character's flaws in 1 minute. I explained my flaws in 40 seconds. I time myself. You also have to understand how to explain their positive attributes in that same minute. I will keep trying even if I don't hit the moon. I can aim for the moon. If I make it to the clouds, I'll figure out how to get past that. And then I'll figure out how to get past the atmosphere. And then I'll figure out how to get into this distance between the moon and here. And then I'll figure out how to get to the moon eventually. I will not give up hope. I refuse. No matter how bad things look. In 2018, I went to BronyCon with $500 in my pocket. And my rent wasn't paid. And by the end of the convention, because of my vendor table, I had $10,000 in my pocket, the rent was paid, and the lights were going to be turned on Monday. I refuse to stop hoping that something will eventually work out. I also tend to set it up where it will work out and do the statistical math and all the things like that. Understand mental trauma and illness is not a good enough flaw. You need to have flaws that are kind of strange, like my roommates leave silverware lying around and I have to go hunt it when I want to do the dishes. My roommates sometimes forget to take his name tag from where he works off, and it goes in the dryer and gets sucked into wherever the mystery place that the socks end up. And I have to listen to it rattle around until I want to open the dryer and get in there and get it. See, those are little tiny flaws. Every person has them. The objective is to not make a person non-functional. It's to make a person who has flaws and then figures out how they compensate for life with them and what they do to overcome them. How do I overcome PTSD? I never stop hoping. And then at this point, the only problem I have is nightmares. And I'm okay with that. Because the medication would actually make it where I can't feel very well or very much at all. So I'd rather have the nightmares than not. How to deal with criticism. Analyze it and see if it's useful or trolling. If it's just somebody being mean, I'm going to say this, and some people aren't going to like what I'm about to say. You have the right to delete comments. That simple. If someone is just being mean to you, get rid of them. If someone is genuinely trying to help you make something better, listen to them. Look at what they're saying. Try to figure it out. Take what's useful and throw away what's not. Look at the engoodening of No Man's Sky. That man sat down and read 200,000 reviews and threw out everything that was just mean-spirited and took everything that people were saying and handed the stuff to his team and was like, Here's all the things we need to fix. A year later, they were so well loved, the town paid to put up a sign. And this is the UK, by the way, where the bureaucracy to put up a sign is like 5 different levels. They put up a sign and a statue that said, Happy Games is here. And it just has an arrow pointing to where their studio is. That cost $500,000. That's how much they are now beloved. And they've released 26 expansions. I don't even play the game. My friends do. They've released 26 expansions and haven't charged anybody a dime. Good job. Check my thumbs, please. Thank you. Left hand, I swear, it is odd. But your encouragement should not come from comments. Comments help. Remember, if you are reading something of someone else's, leave a comment. Comments are the kind of encouragement when someone is down and nearly out that will pick them back up. However, your encouragement should not come directly from the comments. It should come from you looking at what you've done and going, okay, I'm okay with this. Not I think this is good. Not I think this is perfect. I think this is good enough to put out. That's where your encouragement should come from, is inside yourself. The comments are there to prop you up when you can't find that. And please leave comments, please. I have a story I've started publishing. It has 87 favorites, not a single comment. I don't know what to make of this. It keeps me up at night, okay? How to issue criticism. This is something a lot of people don't know how to do. First off, if it's bad, say so. Just say it. I don't like this. This sounds awful. Do you understand that I think this is bad? Your opinion is not sacrosanct. Your opinion is not a 10 commandment, but you are allowed to have it. Explain in detail why. In civil, direct terms, quoting the parts that you are directly criticizing. Ensure that you tell the author you don't personally think they're a bad person, unless, of course, what they're putting out is something about themselves where they are a bad person. That's an exception, not the rule. And always offer a follow-up. Say, if you need a proofreader, I'll do a chapter. If you want somebody to look this over before you publish it next time, put your money where your mouth is. If you're willing to do criticism, you should be willing to do corrections. Because any good critic is a teacher. Not just a person who criticizes. You are willing to teach them what you're getting at through their own work. In the same way I would issue an essay when I was a professor to my students and expect them to give me something that's worth reading. A lot of people didn't get A's in my class and they wondered why. This is Human Sexuality 102. This is supposed to be easy. No. I cannot click these links. And I realize why I can't click these links, and that's because of how everything is set up right now. So story with a hook is you basically set up a scene that doesn't have context, but creates enough mystery and ideas around it to draw in the context. Fallen Equestrian Entry, story with a hook. I started to write a story called Ponyhammer. Doesn't have a hook. It just drops into the plot. The important thing with a hook is that you drop something in and don't explain it. And it is only explained by reading the story later. Let me think. An excellent hook recently. Wild Robot. Anybody seen Wild Robot?
Yes.
Okay. The opening to Wild Robot, where the robot gets up and walks into the forest and all the animals are panicked and everything. That is your hook. What is going to happen with this robot that has no direction, no one to communicate with, and nothing, and has just walked into the woods? You have a hook now. There's no explanation of the world, no explanation of who owns these robots yet, no explanation of how this works, nothing. except for a creature that has stood up, realized it exists in the world, and is now looking to figure out what it needs to do. That's a hook, where you've written something without explanation. You must also understand that both methods you will lose readers over. Whether you write something without explaining it, or you write something with explaining it, you're going to lose readers both ways. And that's okay. Remember, your audience is one. You, me, the person writing this. This is what a hero's journey arc looks like. This is writing 101. Everyone should know this. It's really simple. Luke Skywalker goes on one of these. Little Pip goes on one of these. The first 2 episodes of My Little Pony are this. Call to adventure. Some form of supernatural or guardian or some sort of aid. They hit a threshold. The mentor or helper is cast aside. They fall to temptation, and now they're in an abyss, and they are reborn as a new person. And through that transformation, they return a hero who has brought something new into the world, whether that be concept, understanding, resource, or literal magic. That is the journey you are looking to do with most stories and most plots. Fallout Equestria, the original by K-Cat, is a giant hero's journey with a bunch of little hero's journeys along the way. That's how it's done. This is just a very good reference chart for understanding where am I in my personal hero's journey. Your personal hero's journey can be Dave from The Office, or it can be Conan the Barbarian. Both of these are hero's journeys. Figure out which one you're writing and go with it. And then you want to integrate everything, piece by piece. Is this the right time for a subplot? Is this the wrong time for a subplot? I have resolved this subplot. Now, how does that change the journey? What resource, what thing do they have access to? How can this be taken away, if it can at all? These are things you have to remember. What helpful side characters still exist that I can call on later? And am I trying to prove a moral or ethical point by the end of this? And if you are, did I do it well? Because if you did it well, if you've ever proven a moral or ethical point, people should be mad at you, but should be unable to refute you. That's where it should, because they should be mad at you because you made them look at themselves. Not because you did something heinous that's probably a bad thing. No, they should be mad at you because they made you look at themselves and go, okay, what am I doing wrong that I need to fix in my own life? That's what you're trying to do when you're trying to prove a moral ethical point. You're trying to get a person to look inside themselves, not look outward at the world around them. Because if they're looking outward at the world around them, everybody's a hypocrite, including me. Here are the benefits of each way of writing. If you're writing first person, you can express emotions. Background, you can show, not tell. Which means that I can just literally put my character's thoughts on the page in italics, and that's what they're actively thinking, exactly what the voice in their head says. This works really well for self-insert, but it lacks, if you have a lack of experience in a field and you're writing about something, like you're writing about a veterinarian, but you've never actually been a veterinarian, it's really going to show. Only write in first person what you are comfortable with you yourself having either experienced or done extensive research and interviews on. Second person. The cool part about second person is it has all of the problems of first and third. But the really cool part is you can directly talk to the audience. Because the unidentified people whom your characters may be talking to can be the people reading. And then third person, you have omnipresence. You can show something happen that your main character was not involved in at all. Terry Goodkind does excellent third person. Because everything he writes is written for Sort of Truth series is written third person, But he shows the bad guy and what the bad guy's doing and how the bad guy isn't like evil. It's just the bad guy believes what he's doing is the right thing. And that's cool. The problem with third person, you're not allowed to write what usually allowed to write exact thoughts people are having, like the conversation going on in their head. You just usually aren't allowed to do that. Emotions have to be protracted. They have to be distanced. You can't describe the emotion as it is felt. You have to only describe how you would describe it to another person, if you understand the difference. I feel the tingle on the back of my neck as someone breathes down my spine. The hairs raised on the back of Fiaura's neck as someone breathes across them. That's the difference. That's the language I'm allowed to use. I have to describe it in third person as if I'm not directly feeling it. In first person, I can just describe the nerve sensation and get away with it. How do you write emotions? I'm going to call on somebody. Who wants to go? Sure. Describe the emotion happiness without using the word.
Light, joy, uplifting.
Okay? C minus. Anybody else? Describe the emotion euphoria.
Euphoria. I had something good for Joel.
Euphoria.
For euphoria, I'm thinking of like the sensation of biting into your favorite meal, the sensation of finally getting off of your feet after a long day's work.
Okay, now I will describe it. In that moment, I stared forward and realized that I had no problem with what I was seeing. It was as if I had belonged and had been seen and heard simultaneously. My brain suddenly deciding that sadness was no longer an option to be felt in the smallest iota. When you describe an emotion, you have to describe it as a sentence without using it. Once you can do that, you can describe any emotion. You can describe love, you can describe anger, you can describe disappointment, pride, both types. Anything can be described. Once you can write a sentence that is the description of how something feels without using the word, you've learned to write emotions. That is the shorthand version of everything on this slide. How to describe an emotional state. Accents also are hard to write unless you've learned to speak that accent. Example, a really old show called Fruit Blood offended me to no end because I'm actually from Alabama, y'all. I understand how to use this word, how to speak, say this, and that ain't it. What they were doing was Hollywood bull. And now I put the accent back in my pocket like my voice trainer taught me. When you want to use an accent, you have to write as it is phonetically spoken. Please don't use Cajun. You have no idea how hard that is. But you also want to make sure at the end of your accents and emotions and everything, you can write it in such a way that the reader places themselves in the person's shoes, looking out of their eyes, hearing with their ears, feeling with their hands. And can do that by just closing their eyes and remembering the words on the page. If you can get somebody to do that, you have perfectly captured an emotional feeling and a state of being. And that is why some of my chapters turn out to be 40 and 50 pages, is because I'm sitting there describing a single feeling for like 5 paragraphs, and my editor comes by and goes, no, 3. And it's still 3 paragraphs long, and I can only fit 6 on the page. Each of your subplots, each of your main plots, each of your points is making a crescendo. Each crescendo must ascend higher than the previous one. If it doesn't, your ending should have been the previous one. Or you cannot have the drop-off after the current crescendo. It has to immediately lead to the next rise. So, character finds pistol. Let's disassemble. The payoff is, I'm now going to describe 2 pages worth of the character putting that pistol together. That's my rise. My payoff is they load the pistol and shoot their captor. That's my crescendo. It is everything building up to that moment, and now the taper off is how they feel, what's going through their head. Now that they've shot their captor, what do? Now I have to build the next plot point, and it has to be bigger than putting together a pistol and shooting the person keeping me prisoner. Rinse and repeat. Every time you hit a high point, your next high point has to be even bigger in stakes. It has to be even bigger in emotional feeling, and it has to be a bigger investment from you and the reader, or the readers will stop reading. They will stop watching your TV show. They will stop looking at the thing you're making if it starts not going higher. Because you've given them an emotional high. You've given them a dump of endorphins. Now the next dump of endorphins from you has to be bigger. That's just biology and psychology put together. I'm sorry, this is how writing works from what I've learned, and it annoys me. Longer nor shorter are automatically better. Neither of these things is true. Some people are like short and punchy, some people are like long-winded and take your time. I read Tolkien and watch Guardians of the Galaxy on the same day. It's just what you're in the mood for. Do not be afraid to scrap entire chapters and rewrite them. I have a rule about writing stories. The first 5 chapters are going to be scrapped and rewritten from the get-go, even after they've already been released. So, the 5 chapters of Dead Tree on FemFiction that were the original chapters were 4,200 words. The 5 chapters that now exist are 14,000 words. On the flip side of that, the first 5 chapters of Here There Be Dragons were originally 27,000 words. They are now 18,000 words. Shorter is not better, longer is not better. I was willing to completely rewrite them from scratch, understanding the mistakes I made the first time so I could then set the tone for the rest of the story. When something is hard to write, you will have to write it multiple times. Whether that hardness is because you emotionally are having a problem, or because what you are trying to describe is difficult to put into words. And each of us has our own difficulty putting things into words. For me to describe feelings of enjoyment, euphoria, happiness is difficult for me. But for me to go into anatomic, precise detail of what a bullet does to a person's shoulder is easy. And then to be able to describe it in such a way that you could use it for a storyboard for an animation, completely something I can do any day of the week. But for me to describe what it's like to be happy, okay, that's going to take me a minute. I might need to get some caffeine and ruminate for 20, 30 minutes, which brings me to my next point. If I write two words on a day, and I write 20,000 words the next day, both of these things are writing. So long as what I am working on is open on my desk, whether that be my desktop or if you're like me, and then type it out. Because I'm weird. I like pen, I like paper, don't judge me. There's a physical copy of Dead Tree. It takes up an entire filing cabinet because it's just spiral notebooks. And my handwriting is terrible. But if you are willing to do that, and just so long as it's open on your desk in front of you and you're actively thinking about it, you're writing. It doesn't matter how many words you get on the page. Yesterday on the airplane, I wrote 46 pages. The day before that at the house, I wrote 2 sentences. I spent the same amount of time working on it, 4 hours both times. That's how much got done. Lastly, your proofreaders are your first reviewers. Your editor or proofreader has a final thing they're supposed to do when they're done. You look at them, is this good? Is this publishable? And if they say no, they need to tell you why and how to fix it. Because they need to be able to not just fix the grammar, fix the words, fix continuity. They need to be able to look at you and be like, you did a bad job, here's how to make it a good job. Or, you did a good job, please put this out, I want my name on this. Those are the two things you should have from your proofreader or editor as the final say, is whether or not they are willing to put their name on this with yours. How to do fair use. Rule of satire. Scratch the serial numbers off. That's not Princess Celestia, that's Princess Sunbutt. Legally distinct. Go look up the rules of fair use, read them over. When in doubt, it's $50 for a consultation from most lawyers. Per hour. Bear that in mind when you're asking them to read a novel. I have a lawyer on retainer thanks to my deceased biological mother who put that into a trust in her will that basically I have a law firm that has to represent me and legally advise me every single time I need advice for the rest of my life. Primarily because she got that law firm $500 million. And rather than her get a bonus that was going to be a couple million, she went, no, I want my kids to have legal representation for life. You agree to do that, you ain't got to pay me. And then she died. And then she died 4 months later from ovarian cancer. She didn't tell them she had ovarian cancer. I would have preferred the money, but okay, Mom. I guess that means I get to publish fan fiction legally as parody now, and that's because I have 6 lawyers who I could call at any time and be like, "Hey, is this a bad thing, or can I get away with this?" Sometimes you're also going to put things on what's called the borderline between legal and not. Nothing is ever legally completely black or white. Learn that your best choice there is to hope and pray no one who can send a cease and desist notices for long enough that it doesn't matter. And what do I mean by that? If it is up for 2 years and you can show evidence that it has been publicly available and more than 2,000 people have seen it, too late, can't send me a cease and desist now. If you did not explicitly tell me I can't do it, which is why if you've ever read Square Enix's EULA for Final Fantasy XIV, it is nightmare fuel. It is 197 pages on a Google Doc at 12-point font. That's an end user license agreement. Also, this is my court case. At least that's my legal name, and that was on the documents. It is signed. We have a ruling against Bethesda, which Mommy and Microsoft had to buy. So here's the fun part when you buy companies. You buy all their legal rulings too, and all their pending cases. At this point, we are past the statute of limitations, so they can't even appeal it. They're just stuck with this. Microsoft has written me a very angry letter. Because they didn't figure it out until 3 years after they purchased Bethesda, and the statute of limitations ended about 28 months before that. They were upsetty spaghetti. Hasbro signed a deal with me. I kind of regret it, but I'm okay with it because I wanted a legal ruling, but it's whatever. Anyway, so I don't have business cards because so far I've only ever had one person actually show back up and show that they still have my business card. So instead, ta-da! Hey, right arm. Cooperate. There we go. Ta-da! Maybe. Okay, wait. This is all the links to everything I do. I have YouTube stuff I put out. I'm literally starting a Mass Effect series now that we have the VTuber avatar up and running, because Mass Effect is one of the RPGs that kind of shaped how I write stuff. Chrono Trigger being the other one. Yeah, I'm old. I stream on Twitch 6 days a week. This pays my bills. If people don't show up to the stream, I don't eat. I don't mean that figuratively. I mean that literally. I will go on ramen and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for a week if I don't have enough stream revenue, which also means that my writing slows down. If you want memes, Blue Sky. If you want to just talk to me directly, there's my Discord. We have a custom link. We have 826 people as a part of my server, which is why we have a permanent custom link. Patreon, that's the only for sure income I know I'm getting every month. I see someone in the back who I have to say thank you to. You with the hat!
Which hat?
No, he became a patron, and he did it on the night I recorded the patron video, which means that he's not in that video yet, and I have to fix it. I haven't had time to. Lastly, if you're looking for my actual writing, Fur Affinity is a thing I'm currently publishing on with any of my original work, because I write furry trash, okay? I wrote a story called Here There Be Dragons Shot Into the Void. It is post-human furry sci-fi. I'm writing a story called Between Feathers and Federation. It is furry romantic trash. Come enjoy my furry trash. The other story, the new parody I'm working on, and the reason why I brought up Square Enix is because I had to read their EULA because I'm working on writing a story. You know what the story is? I'm taking the tabletop game I've been playing in for 3 years as a chocobo, sentient chocobo mage, and writing it as a story. Once Dead Tree's finished, I'm going to start focusing on these other more original works. And I'm going to write that, and probably Square Enix is going to send me a cease and desist.
You tried.
To which my response will be, okay, bring it. That'll be a fun day. Anyway, questions. I have exactly 2 minutes.
I was wondering if you could talk about your experience working with Hasbro and what regrets you might have with that deal.
My regret is I didn't get them to pay me.
Yeah.
The deal in and of itself, I cannot discuss the exact terms, but the basic terms are they will, unless it is completely egregious, they will not C&D fan works. And that expires next year. So what happens after that, I don't know. And the other part is I'm allowed to finish Dead Tree. I am not allowed to write another pony work and publish it. So once Dead Tree is done, I cannot put another pony work to print. I had to consult my lawyer about that deal for the stories I wrote for Cider Fest, because they came out after that deal was done, on whether or not I could release them. And the answer came to, as long as I did not physically print them, yes. So I didn't, and that's why they're not in the Cider Fest book. Because I told Cider Fest, you can't print my stories, I'm going to release them on FinFiction as a preview for Cider Fest for their 2023 thing. Any other questions? I have 1 minute. I'm sorry my technology did not work until 7 minutes into the panel, so this Q&A time got cut short. Yes?
You mentioned that you're planning to write something basically on tabletop game character. For D&D, do you think if you do that with D&D, will you have the same legal problems or less, since there's a lot more?
I will not touch D&D.
You won't touch D&D.
I will touch Pathfinder repeatedly.
Okay.
Pathfinder's great.
More of the question of, do you think in those kind of stories where they use very much, I was going to say free to use creatures like dragons?
They're not. So here's the thing. Dungeons and Dragons has official novels. Because they have official novels, you have to have a license in the same way that I would have to have a license to write a Star Wars book. However, Paizo has official novels, but Paizo doesn't care. Paizo, on the other hand, will buy your novel and put it out themselves if they like it. They will buy your adventure and put it out themselves if they like it. So that's the difference in the two companies. So I won't touch Wizards. On the other hand, I went and had an interview with the Paizo staff while I was at Gen Con, and yeah, no, they're fun. And they told me to go ahead, do it. It wasn't just go ahead, do it. It was within an hour I had an email from their lawyer with a legal agreement for anything I wanted to do. So the Pathfinder side of the tabletop game is handled. It's the Squeenix side of the tabletop game that I'm sitting over here like, we're going to have to talk. Any other questions before I wrap up? Once, twice, awesome.